It's time to check in now with our media partners from thevoiceofoc.org for an update on what's happening this week in Orange County government and politics. Here to talk about issues in the news right now, we welcome the editor-in-chief for Voice of OC, Norberto Santana. Hi, Norberto.
And Greg, thanks for having me.
Hey, Norberto. So let's start off with what's making news over the county supervisors. The grand jury had something to say about Supervisor Nguyen and what happened with CalOptima. She had a report in the Register this week.
Greg, today Supervisor Janet Nguyen had a press conference where she took issue with a scathing grand jury report that came out earlier this month that raised some troubling questions about the connection between healthcare lobbyists, campaign contributions, and significant changes to CalOptima, which is the county's managed healthcare program for many of the most indigent, elderly, and children in the county. It covers about 400,000 people.
Well, there were some allegations that there were some lobbyists that were involved in the changing of the relationship between CalOptima and the county, and she basically said, no, that wasn't the case. What's the truth?
Supervisor Nguyen made some serious allegations against the grand jury. She protested the fact that she was never interviewed by the panel and also pointed out a lot of procedural mistakes that they had made, pointing out different emails. The one thing that she did, in a sense, speak to was the nexus between fundraising and politics. Here's what she had to say on that issue.
I held many fundraisers within those 3-4 months prior to my reelection. Right. And this is the only one that they called out. But it has absolutely nothing to do with the ordinance change.
Now, Supervisor Nguyen says that when she came on to the CalOptima board in 2011, she found an agency that was rife with conflicts. It was described, the former board, as nothing more than a rubber stamp board. That obviously drew a pretty terse response from her colleague on the Board of Supervisors, John Morlock, who was himself the representative there 4 years prior. Here's his take.
So I don't think you can find anywhere that we were not running in an efficient manner. I would probably have a little difference of interpretation. If anything, CalOptima probably needed a slight health check. I don't know if it needed a major enema where you're going to run out 16 wonderful professionals that were recognized in the industry.
Greg, now the supervisors will likely take up the CalOptima ordinance again this next month. A majority of the supervisors say they will follow the recommendation of the grand jury to put all 5 supervisors back on that billion-dollar panel.
Well, first we have to thank John Morlock for that enema reference. But he's always good with the analogies. Thanks, John, for that. But let's move on and talk about the exchange between the county and the state government as far as withholding of monies. The county's keeping their hands on some monies. Anna and I were just talking about this.
Right now, we've got a Superior Court judge who is literally going to decide whether county leaders need to cut $73 million from their budget. That decision is expected within the next few weeks. It would likely hit the sheriff and the district attorney, both of which have said they can barely meet their mandated constitutional duties as we speak. The issue at play here is how property taxes are divided up, and Orange County has become one of the first counties in the state to essentially defy what Sacramento says how property taxes should be spent.
So there's no precedence for what could actually come out of this?
Absolutely not. In fact, the state attorneys this week told the judge they were terrified at the possibilities that if he found in the county's favor, it would trigger chaos throughout all of the 58 counties who might want to make their own decisions about how their property tax dollars are spent locally. Okay,
what about the flip side of that, though? I mean, aside from having to pay the money that the county held on to, are there other penalties that could be incurred that would cost the county even more?
Well, there's all kinds of challenges. Again, if those monies are cut to the district attorney and to the sheriff, both of those agencies have already told supervisors that they will have problems meeting, again, their constitutionally mandated duties. That means things like courts, things like jails may not be running properly.
All right. Speaking of courts, we talk about translators in courts all the time. What about translators over in Anaheim? I understand this has become kind of an issue too, where over the city council meetings there, they're trying to decide whether or not to pony up some monies to put some translators at those council meetings.
fascinating debate that cuts to the heart of how government dollars are spent and allocated. In Anaheim, where a little more than half the city is Latino and about a quarter of that population doesn't speak English very well, council members this week decided to begin to pay for limited translation. They agreed to spend about $5,000, just a little bit more than they spend on food for their closed session meetings, to have a city staffer essentially translate for members of the public who speak Spanish when they come to the city council. It's a difficult issue. Jurisdictions all over Southern California deal with it in different ways. Los Angeles spends as much as $100,000 a year to make sure that not only council meetings but committee meetings are translated. Other jurisdictions like the city of San Diego don't spend anything on it at all. Here in Orange County, city of Santa Ana spends about $10,000 a year to make sure all council meetings are translated. We'll see how this moves forward.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Norberto. Glad to have you on.
Thanks, guys.
All right. We'll see you again.